it's Elizabeth, and today I'm going to do my March wrap-up April TBR. It's already a week into April, so kind of late with this, but doing it anyway. I only read 4 books in March. Part of that was because, like I've said like 100 times now, I can't handle silence right now. Also, doing some serious job hunting, went on a ton of interviews, still don't have a job. Kinda hoping April will be a much better reading month. The first book that I read in March was Shadow and Bone by Lee Bardugo. I really liked it. The world building was awesome. There was very little story talk. Story talk is kind of a big problem, especially in YA, and especially for a fantasy. I thought that this was just really well written. I think I gave it 4 to 5 stars on Goodreads, and the reason I didn't give it 5 stars, and this is kind of a spoiler, so if you haven't read this, just mute the video, and then once I put this book down, you can unmute it. But what I didn't like about this book was how she just made sudden realizations, and then all of a sudden her powers worked. Like, all of a sudden she realized she didn't like Mal anymore, and then her powers worked. And then, like, the Darkling put that antler collar on her, and she was, like, under her control, and then all of a sudden she realized she had as much right to the power of the antlers as he did. So all of a sudden the antlers worked for her, and it was kind of like a cheap way out, I guess, from like a writing craft kind of standpoint. That was my only problem with it, really, was just these sudden realization type things. The next one, I listened to an audiobook of this, and that's Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I loved it! I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I'm planning to do a full review on this. The world building is just insane. Nothing is irrelevant. Just, it's intense, guys. You should read this right now. Shadow and Bone was the only one that I didn't listen to an audiobook of this month. The next one that I read this month is The 13th Tale by Diane Satterfield. I really liked it. The story was incredibly interesting. The writing was beautiful. It was a little confusing though. Like, basically what this is about is a elderly writer who she doesn't really do interviews, and when she does, she is not truthful in them. All of a sudden she decides that she wants someone to write her biography, and it was just really confusing because for like the first 80% of the book you're led to believe that the writer is one person, but then all of a sudden she's not that person, and she's someone who didn't really exist at all until then. Like, she kind of tells the story partly in first person, partly in third person. So when all of a sudden it's revealed that she's this other person, it's like, what? No, it's just kind of hard to tell what you're supposed to believe and what not. I don't know, but I still liked it, even though it was really confusing at the end. And then the last book I read this month, which I also listened to an audiobook of and got it from the library, so I don't have it, and that's Cress by Marissa Meyer. This was not my favorite of the series so far. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It was just not as interesting or exciting as the other 2. I hope this isn't too much of a spoiler, but once everyone kind of gets separated, it's really hard to kind of keep track of everyone and like what happened to who. But I also think that what happened to Scarlet was possibly the most interesting, but it got like the least amount of like airtime, I guess. So I just really wanted to see more of what was happening with Scarlet. And in the audiobook, the person who did it was just kind of annoying. I listened to a lot of audiobooks, but something that's kind of like an issue, I guess, in audiobooks is when reader does voices of different genders. Like, men reading audiobooks tend to do women's voices, like really high and squeaky and breathy and annoying. Like, the guy who read Harry Potter, his name is Jim Dale, But like whenever he does Hermione's voice, he's like, Harry, we need to go, Harry. Like what? Like, just stop it. Yeah, but then like when women do men's voices, they kind of do it like too throaty and nasally at the same time, if that makes sense. Like when I talk, like, I mean, I have like a kind of deep voice for a girl, I guess. When they do men's voices, like, they kind of overdo it and they're like, I'm a boy, I'm pushing my air really hard through my throat and I'm sounding like a man. It's like, no. Just no. Anyway, on to my April TBR. I am currently reading The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. All I do is listen to audiobooks and knit. Really liking this one. A little bit disappointed with the super repetitive fight scenes. But it's still super awesome. Still loving it. Still loving the world building. Yeah. I like it. The rest of these are kind of tentative. I don't know if I'm actually going to read these or not. But because it is Autism Awareness Month, I will at least attempt to read The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. It is about an autistic boy investigates the death of his neighbor's dog. So I don't know if this is exactly the best time to read about the death of a dog, if there is such a thing as a good time to read about the death of a dog. Yeah, there's like a lot of graphs and things like that in here. So I don't think reading an audio or listening to an audiobook of this would be an option. I'll try, and if it makes me cry, I'll stop reading it. Next one, I borrowed like the digital audiobook from the library, and I have it for I think like 9 more days. And that's Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. This story sounds super interesting. It's about an intersex person in the 70s. It won the Pulitzer Prize. I have a couple of his books. I have that one and The Marriage Plot. I don't know if I'll actually listen to that one or not. But we'll see. This whole TBR is just kind of tentative, you know, like I don't know what I'll be able to handle, what I'll be in the mood for later this month. I don't know. Everything just sucks right now. And I also might read Siege and Storm by Lee Bardugo while I still have Shadow and Bone kind of fresh in my mind, still remember everything, still really pumped to find out what happens. And then Ruin and Rising comes out sometime this year, I think in June. Last month I didn't get around to my TBR jar books, so I just put them back in the jar. I don't know if I'll get to my TBR jar books this month either, but I might as well draw some since this TBR is pretty tentative. Shake it up. Let's see. Oh boy. This is Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. I read like half of this last summer. I was like, I can't do it anymore. But I feel like it's kind of one of those books that every writer needs to read, so I'll try. There are no chapters, which drives me crazy. Okay, and then the next one is Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. It's not going to focus on that. My mom is a super huge, giant Anne Rice fan. But somehow I've never read any of her books. I have like 8 of them. I've never read any of them. I also might read Frog Music this month. It came out, I think, on April 1st. I am the 3rd in line to get it at the library. They have 2 copies, and it's probably going to be only like a one week checkout. Yeah, hopefully I will get that this month. I also have a super huge pile of library books right here. I don't know if I'll actually read any of them. I have the Selection Stories by Kara Cass. I read the Prince. It was cute. Made me realize a lot about Prince Maxen, like how inexperienced with women he is. Read like 20 pages of The Guard. I just want to stab Aspen in his face. Like, ugh, I hate Aspen so much. Like, he's just possessive and obsessive, and he's like a psychopath, you know? Like he only wants America because someone else wants her. He only wants her so that Prince Maxin doesn't have her. Like, he doesn't really seem to give a shit about her as a person. He just wants her to love him. Like, that's all he ever thinks about, is that he's pissed off because she loves Maxin and either not him or him at the same time. And he's like, she better pick me, and like, it's like, you're a dick, and you're a dick and you're poor. She's not gonna pick you. Just go away. Ah! So I don't know if I'll finish this ever. And then also in this pile I have the archived Throne of Glass, Crown at Midnight, Legend by Marie Lu, Cold Girl in Cold Town, Fifth Wave, Catching Fire, the archived. Did I already say that? I don't know. And then a book about physics and the universe. So yeah, I don't know if I'll read any of those. I don't know if I'll read anything. I don't know. Let me know down below if you guys want to see any reviews. Or if you have any suggestions. Obviously, because I need them. So don't forget to comment and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Does anyone else think Jeffrey Eugenides kind of looks like a devil man?